Rising Moons travelers. Wanted to make a brief video as an addendum to my how to use your Black Spire Sabers enhanced blade in your Savi's Hilt. This is another Savi's Hilt, stock Hilt modified blade. Came to my attention that I think I could have added this to the video before. Some tips on troubleshooting when and if you do run into problems with your blades. The enhanced blade will run into some of the same problems that a regular blade will run into as well. And those symptoms are like the hilt ignites, makes the ignition sound, but no actual LEDs. There'll be some, like where the blade will ignite, the LEDs will turn off, and then you'll turn the blade off. It'll sound like it turns off, but then it will never turn back on again. It does a lot of things like that. A lot of times it is the hilt itself that is the problem, not necessarily the blade. Even the stock Savi blades, a lot of times it's the hilt. That connector that's inside with the 3 connections on it for the data positive and negative leads. They're notorious for being damaged inside the hilt itself, not necessarily the blade, because everything in the blade is kind of static. That connector has to turn and twist, so there's some added stress there to the cabling and to the soldering connections that are there. So unless they're done very well, they can work themselves loose over time with a lot of repeated use and cycles. The other thing that can happen sometimes is that your blade will run and then not, and then it won't ignite again. You'll get nothing but a disconnect sound from the hilt, and then you'll try another blade or plug it in, or you can't get it to work again, and a lot of people end up thinking that their hilt is dead, right? But guys, and as people that are in a lot of the chats and stuff like that I follow, it's probably batteries is the first problem. The second problem is also probably batteries, and the third problem is also batteries, and then the fourth might be something physically wrong with the hilt itself. But for the Black Spire Sabers blade, there's a process where you can actually reset the controller on the blade. So for example, this is a controller out of a stock blade, right? And it has a little processor, a little controller inside here, and it also sometimes needs to be reset. But the reset process that they've selected is just time, right? You just leave it unplugged for a long time, a minute or two, decharges the processors completely, everything goes back to a low power state, and then it's ready to receive new instruction, new data from the hilt itself. All right. But in the Black Spire Sabers controller, the reset is not time-based, because I want people to be able to store the settings that they use, right? So when you find the color that you want, the animation or effect that you want, you can store that and unplug the blade and leave it unplugged for an unlimited amount of time, and then it'll be there ready for you the next time you plug it in with the same effect. You won't have to go hunting for it again, right? So to initiate a reset, there's a couple of different ways to initiate a reset. First and easiest method is the switch method, I call it, right? Where essentially you power cycle the hilt rapidly until you hear a disconnect sound, and then you leave it disconnected. You wait a certain amount of time, 10 seconds or so, and you'll hear a reconnect sound from the blade. And then at that point, essentially the blade is factory reset, so to speak, right? So you'll see here, I'll give you an example of that, okay? So right now we have red blade. It's a red kyber crystal in here as well, but it's a red blade with an effect, right? So let's say blade's not responding. I can't change settings, whatever the case is, right? Something is not working right with the blade, so I want to reset it, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and initiate the reset. Let me show you my power key here, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and power cycle it on and off multiple times. Okay, you hear the blade disconnect sound, reconnect sound. It's still powered off, right? Power it back on. Now it's just a red blade, no effect. Okay, so it's essentially factory reset. It's obeying the Kyber crystal once again, and it's back to square one. Okay, so that's the first method. So if that doesn't work, the next method is to manually reset the blade itself. Let me turn my light on so you can kind of see. Okay, so underneath the blade, there are three connections, three terminals here, right? What you'll want to do is you'll want to bridge the positive and negative leads, okay, with something. So I use these little pair of pliers or little tweezers. You can use a paper clip, staple, something metallic to bridge these two connections right here. That's all we're after, right? So you can just kind of bridge them, hold it there for 2-3 seconds, let it go, okay, and then we're back in action. It's reset. Okay, and we're back again. Okay, the other option is, again, time, right? Sometimes someone will be running their Saber and they'll power it off and disconnect it right away, right? And what's happened is that when you turn off the Saber, there's a couple of seconds there where the processor in the Saber, the chip, is still running and it's drawing a lot of current. So what will happen is that it'll exhaust that current before it expects to be able to exhaust the current and before it can finish the write to the chip itself. So you can kind of get yourself into a stuck state where you're kind of didn't really finish the write, but you ran out of power before the write was finished, and the chip is expecting data to be there the next time it's turned on, and it's not. So what you can do is you can follow these steps. It'll reset that chip. It'll reset the memory of the blade controller, and you'll be back again, right? So the other thing too is sometimes I've gotten them into a state where, you know, I've really gone through and tried to break them as much as I possibly can in order to be able to make this video and to make a troubleshooting guide for people, not just for the enhanced blade controller, but for the general, you know, the Savis ones as well. You know, I've done things like pull the power out of the whole hilt to see if it, you know, while it's running, to see if it causes problems, and really difficult to duplicate some of the problems that other people have seen, except for the physical problems, right? The physical problems are usually that connector up here in the front, or it can even be, you know, well, besides battery, right? Battery is the first, second, and third problem usually. So I don't use the stock batteries, like this style. I became very frustrated with having to change the batteries out on them, and I think this is just kind of I don't like the fact that we have to put AA battery or AAA batteries into landfills when they're done, when we're done playing with our toys. Everything now should be rechargeable, right? So I purchased a rechargeable version of this from a gentleman who has an Etsy store, and I've got a few of them now. So yeah, I don't particularly like these. The other challenge you have with regular batteries is that when they get low, they experience more voltage drop when they go under load, right? So when the blade is igniting, or when it's, you know, when you're flashing it on and off, or changing colors, or, you know, white, for example, is like the most demanding color blade because it's basically all the colors, right, are needed to create white. So it can put a damper, or it can put too much demand on the batteries themselves when they are low, and then that can cause some other issues as well. So little pro tip there, right? I mean, if you can afford it, you know, upgrade the batteries. If not, I still would never ever store your lightsaber with batteries in it, if at all possible, right? I know some of the legacy lightsabers who have no choice, but it is what it is. You know, so yeah, I would definitely not recommend, you know, using these if you can at all help it. But that's neither here nor there. So again, you know, checking your batteries is probably the first step to always troubleshooting anything to do with a Savis or a Legacy Hilt. Next would be physical connections, taking a look inside the blade to see if, you know, there's anything in there, dust, whatever, dead spider, whatever. I've seen, you would not want to know what I've seen jammed into those things. I cleaned one out that someone had jammed a hot dog into, so, you know, it was kind of nasty. But so yeah, again, those are going to be your processes to go ahead and troubleshoot your blade. If you have run into any problems at all, I am on the Galaxies Edge Discord server. Please look me up there, ATown93. I'm happy to help. There is a really, really great community there of people that probably have forgotten more about how to work with electronics and troubleshooting and getting their lightsaber hilts and stuff like that to work than I will ever learn. So those guys are great. They're, you know, always super helpful people there. You know, again, reach out if you have problems. Thanks. Till the Spire.